Welcome back. BYUtv football analyst Blaine Fowler is here on our final show of the year. Can you believe it? It's been like 40-something, and here we are at the last.
Yeah, and you guys gave me a tough assignment for this week to
Yes.
finish up the season. You know how players have to visualize what they're going to do in the game. They visualize the whole game in their minds, and when they make big plays, they've already done it in their minds. You guys asked me to visualize the whole season.
Yeah, and give us not only the winner, but the score, and then you folks at home can kind of make mental notes as well to see if you agree. Since it's always football season at BYUtv, we thought we would begin with Connecticut in August on ESPN on a Friday night. Not only who wins that game, but what will the score be?
BYU's going to come away with a win, 35-13. On the road in their opener. And this is a game against a team that scored just 20 points a game last year. They're going to struggle again offensively. They had a new head coach in Bob Diaco, who is Notre Dame's defensive coordinator. A better team defensively than they've been, but not better offensively, and BYU's going to get a big win.
So win on the road, and then
Win
they
to
stay
open
on
up.
the road over at Memorial Stadium against UT.
I hate to say, but in my visualization, they lost to Texas on the road.
It's
and they
understandable.
lost 27-21 on the road to Texas. Texas has David Ash coming back. Charlie Strong is the new head coach down there. This was a talented team last year that just didn't execute. And you have to believe with Charlie Strong and his staff on the coaching staff now, coming from Louisville with that great experience they had at Louisville and the success that they had there, that this is going to be a very good football team.
I can hear the Cougar Nation going, come on, Blaine. We're going to be better than we were last year.
This is how I visualized it. BYU's ahead going into the last 4 minutes of the game, 20-21. And then Texas goes down on a game-winning drive, and they win this thing 27-21. BYU gets the ball back one more time, and Texas holds them. That's the way I saw it. I hope it doesn't happen like that, but that's the way I saw it.
That's the way it's been revealed.
Yep. And I had to pick one loss during the season because it's so hard to go undefeated.
So they come home, and they've got to prepare for another tough team from Texas, the Houston Cougars. What a shootout they had last year in Houston.
And I think it'll be another shootout. This game's going to be a 48-38 win for BYU, this time in Provo. You know, that Houston team was an 8-5 team last year, a bowl team. 47-46 last year, so not that different. But BYU is going to come out on top, and I think that Houston, even with John O'Corn back at quarterback, is going to worn down at elevation, and BYU comes away with a big win, 48-38.
Thursday night, ESPN game, that'll be huge. All right, Virginia comes to Provo. It won't be the monsoon we lived through last year in Charlottesville. What happens in this rematch?
Well, this is a game that BYU plays with a chip on their shoulders, and they win this thing 31-17.
Okay.
So they're going to be much better offensively. They're not going to deal with the elements the way they dealt with the elements when you and I were back there. We had to deal with the elements as well. And so BYU's offense is going to be going. This is Mike London's 5th year as a head coach. He's got to get some things done. I think BYU is going to be better than they were. I think Virginia will be better, but a 31-17 win for BYU.
Cougars stay home. Conference weekend arrives Friday night. Utah State at LaVell Edwards Stadium in what has become a really, really spirited rivalry.
This is going to be a quality win for BYU, 34-24. This is going to be another great game, and by the season's end, I think Utah State's going to be a team that'll win 9 or 10 games and compete for a championship in their league. So this is going to be a big one. A 9-5 team last year. If Chucky is back, Chucky Keaton at quarterback, and he's healthy again this season, boy, this could be a big, big game for BYU, and one that'll look good when they come away with that 34-24 win.
After this Friday night, they go back to Orlando and face what may be the toughest team on the entire schedule, Central Florida.
Yeah, you and I have been talking a lot about this. People don't understand how good Central Florida is, but BYU is going to get a win, 28-27. And let me tell you how this one unfolds, because I pictured this one in my mind too. BYU trails 27-21. And they get the ball back with 2:40 left. They force UCF to punt, and BYU drives 86 yards on that final drive, and they win this thing at the end. A la Houston last year. But this is a big win because Central Florida is a team that, you know, if they don't lose Blake Bortles, who's going to be picked in the first 5 picks of the draft at quarterback, they're probably a preseason top 10 team. I think they're very talented. They'll be very good on defense, and BYU is going to come away with a last-second win in that one. So it's going to make up for the loss at Texas.
And then we go to Disney World to celebrate.
Absolutely.
Right. Here's a recap of Blaine's picks for the first half of the season. And as Blaine sees it, and there you see the scores, the Cougars are sitting 5-1 as they head into the middle part of the schedule in October. And you're wrestling with the Texas. And I know that deep down inside you're still wrestling with Central Florida.
And I'm not saying that they can't beat Texas down there. They just have to, you know, not play the way they played in my nightmare on that last drive. But if they come away with that record against some quality opponents in the first half of the season, I really like where they sit going to the second half of the season.
Nevada comes into LaVell Edwards Stadium on October 18th. The Cougars had to have a big second half to get past them in Reno last year. What about this one?
Yeah, well, Cody Fajardo back, the dual-threat quarterback for Nevada for another season, but he's not enough. BYU's going to play much better on this one. They're going to win 41-20 in this ballgame. They're really going to have a coming out, and the offense is going to be in high gear from this point forward.
After this, Cougars go up to Boise. They got a new coach. BYU put the hurt on them last year. What happens in the rematch? Well,
they'll have Grant Hedrick back at quarterback with some experience, completed 69% of his balls, but BYU is going to be just too much for Boise State. BYU's offense is going to be in high gear. This is a 38-28 win for BYU on the road. This is another one of those, like Utah State, that by season's end is going to look like a really good victory for BYU. 38-28, they're going to beat Boise State.
Friday night game on ESPN. Be quite the night. November arrives and the Cougars go back into the South and reunite with Middle Tennessee State.
Yeah, we'll see much of what we saw last year. This was an 8-5 team last year in Middle Tennessee. They just don't have enough to stop BYU from knocking them off the football. 486 total yards last year. It'll be similar. BYU wins this easily, 42-14.
42-14 the final. Our friends from Las Vegas come up, reunite with this BYU-UNLV rivalry on November 15th.
I love what Bobby Hauck's done, but 44-17. BYU's going to walk away with this thing. By now, BYU's offense is just cranking. Taysom Hill is at full speed. The receivers are in full play, and teams are going to have a hard time slowing BYU down, so they're going to put 44 up on UNLV.
Savannah State on the last home game of the year, November 22nd, Senior Day. You know, all the teams play teams like Savannah State. BYU just happens to be playing them in November.
Yeah, this is a complete mismatch, and BYU is going to win 56-10 in this one. A dominating performance, and BYU's offense just keeps doing this as we close out the season.
And they close out the regular season at Cal at the end of the month.
And Cal Berkeley, it's a 34-21 win for BYU on the road to complete an 11-1 regular season. Cal, I'm keeping the score down a little bit because they have good athletes on defense, but they're still going to walk away with a win on the road.
All right, let's look at the second half. According to Blaine, a perfect 6-0, and there you see the scores. And so BYU finishes the regular season 11-1. And as we learned, Brett McMurphy of ESPN writing today, something that Blaine, you and I have really known about and has been talked about since the Fight Hunger Bowl back in December, the Miami Bowl for BYU in Christmas week.
And they're going to play against an American Athletic Conference team. They play 3 AIAC teams this year during the season. And so it'll be a fun game. I can't think of a better place to be in the wintertime than down in Miami. We're going to have a lot of fun covering that. And BYU's going to say, if they score like we said they were going to and hold teams, they're going to be in the top 20 in scoring offense and scoring defense, 11-1, and ranked in the top 15 going into that Miami Beach Bowl.
All right, that's a lot to digest.
That's the season I saw in my mind. Now it's up to these players to go out and execute it, right?
I'm going to rewind this show on my DVR and study those scores again, as should you. The great Blaine Fowler has spoken. Good job, Blaine. Good season.